Hi everyone, and welcome to Santa's Bedtime story from St Ninian's Church in Stonehouse. I'm Stuart. I hope you're all cosy in your Christmas onesies or PJs. Today we have two stories for you. Santa will be along in just a few minutes, but if you bear with us for just a moment, then some friends of mine would like to tell you a very special story about a baby being born. So cuddle up and enjoy. When we tell the Nativity story, we want to cram all sorts of detail in, and why not? A good story sets the scene, builds the characters, sounds dramatic, and has a villain and heroes. Of course, that only leads to complaints. There's no donkey mentioned. We don't really know how many wise men visited, or even when. So, here's our opportunity to tell the story once again, this time with just the bare necessities. Our story starts with a visitor. Gabriel, one of God's angels, appeared to Mary, saying, "Peace be with you." That must have given her pause. But then, there was more news to come. The angel continued, "God is pleased with you, and has greatly blessed you." Mary, plain girl as she was deeply troubled by this, and wondered what it could all mean. Then came the real surprise, the possum news that really would cause Mary some confusion. "You will become pregnant," said Gabriel, "and give birth to a son. You will name him Jesus." "How can this be?" said Mary. "I certainly don't have the qualifications. I'm barely old enough to get married. What will my husband-to-be, Joseph, think?" Gabriel reassured her that nothing was impossible for God. Joseph was a carpenter, a practical man, used to building things with his bare hands. He thought the news was far from possum. He was deeply troubled by it. As he slept in it, though, an angel appeared to him in a dream. "Don't worry about this, Joseph," the angel said. "It's nothing to be afraid of. It will even be good news for all the world." And so, with his fuzzy thoughts and fears allayed, Joseph married Mary. At that time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that there should be a census. Everyone had to return to their hometown. It was all a bit chaotic, but at least there wasn't a pandemic. Mary and Joseph had to travel all the way to Bethlehem. It was quite far, far away. They probably worried about how many of their possessions they could bring with them. But maybe they just brought the bare necessities. Bethlehem was so busy though, that they had trouble finding anywhere to stay. They were directed to the only space available. They knew it was a stable. They could hear the horse whinny. The poo was on the floor. But it was the only place for them. Hoping it wasn't too Jeremy, they settled down. And so it came time for Mary to give birth to her son in that sooty stable. That young mama laid her baby in a manger, wrapped in swaddling clothes, surrounded by the fuzzy-wuzzy glow of their love. It couldn't have been very comfortable. Let's hope he didn't wake up all stiff and sore. That would have made the baby a bit grisly. Out in the fields nearby, some shepherds were looking after their sheep. They noticed something odd in the sky, and knew that something was brewing. Next thing, an angel appeared, telling them not to be afraid, for they had an important task to do, and would bear witness to something amazing. Then suddenly a whole host of angels appeared, praising God. What a hullabaloo! I wonder how low-pitched the choir was, being full of baritones. The angel told the shepherds that a special person had been born in Bethlehem, their Saviour, Christ the Lord. They explained that the baby was not born in a palace, but in a stable bare, lying in a manger. There and then the shepherds decided to go and see for themselves, and they set off with barely a pause. And so, just as the angel had said, they found the baby in a manger. It was a real Kodiak moment. Now, King Herod ruled in Judea at that time, and it seemed that he was always unhappy, worried about plots and schemes, a real bear with a sore head who would do anything to claw back power. Far in the east, so definitely not Bear's Den, some magi set out to find a new king. They lost their bearings, and thinking a king would be found in a palace, they stopped to ask Herod for directions. Only, they discovered that they'd got it a bit wrong, and where the new king was to be found was the polar opposite of what they expected. Searching the skies once more, looking at the Great Bear perhaps, they found the star that had been directing them, and so they went Paddington. They found Mary and the baby and were overjoyed. Yogi, if... You give us such joy, thought Mary, as she thought about the child before her, and of all the promises from God. Of course, the Magi didn't come empty-handed. They were bearing quality gifts: gold, frankincense and myrrh. The angel appeared to the Magi, warning them not to pander to Herod, and so they went home by a different road. And so our tale comes to an end, as do the terrible puns. But the story from the stable bear is one we retell every year. And not just at this time, but one we bear witness to every day. It's the story of God coming to the gummied up messiness of our lives to show us His love for us. We don't need contrived scripts or cute photos to tell us the story. We just need someone to show our love to, for that's where we will find God at work. I hope you enjoyed our possum Bear Nativity. I wonder if you spotted all the time something to do with bears was said. There were loads. Now, it's time for our next story. Santa was planning to come and pay us a visit tonight, but he was a little nervous about having to elf isolate? Oh, never mind. Santa didn't want to be stuck at home, so instead he sent us this brilliant story. Are you ready?
It was the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in the hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plum danced in their heads. And Mamma, in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away in the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the lustre of midday to the objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles the coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane flew, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing of and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes of soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and his beard and his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of his pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had broad face and little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump at the right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Now children, I'm sorry I couldn't be there on the 23rd of this month as it had been cancelled, but I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and also to your minister, Stuart Cutler, and his family, and everyone else connected to the church. It's in the names. Good night, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Santa, and Merry Christmas to you too. If you enjoyed our stories tonight, then why not pop back onto the website tomorrow night at 6:30 for our Christmas Eve service with lots of great Christmas songs and some of our young people telling us the Christmas story too. Thanks for joining us tonight, and Merry Christmas to you all.